The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with anxious voices. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising tiers that circled the central speaking platform. Light from 3 artificial suns shone through the transparent dome above, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. High Counselor Zix Thran raised his 4 arms for silence. The elderly alien skin shimmered with stress-induced color changes as he addressed the emergency session. Esteemed members of the Council, we face an unprecedented situation, Zix Thran said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into the standard galactic language. Our intelligence reports confirm that the humans have developed a revolutionary propulsion system, one that could allow them to travel beyond our galaxy. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Samuel Carter, Earth's observer, sat quietly in his assigned spot at the edge of the chamber. His face remained calm despite the growing hostility directed his way. As the only human present, he had grown used to being the target of suspicious glares. A representative from the Vorlon Collective rose to speak. The humans were never supposed to achieve this level of technology. We have contained their expansion for centuries. How did this happen? Samuel noted how they spoke as if he wasn't there. It was always the same at these meetings. Talk about humans, not to them. Zix Thran activated the central holographic display. It showed a massive shipyard hidden in Earth's asteroid belt. Enormous vessels took shape there, far larger than anything humans had built before. These ships appear to be designed for long-term habitation. Our analysts believe they may be planning a mass exodus. On the far side of Earth, deep beneath the Mariana Trench, Lisa Morgan checked the final calculations on her tablet. The underwater facility hummed with activity as scientists and engineers worked around the clock. The walls of reinforced glass revealed the dark ocean outside, keeping their work hidden from prying alien satellites. Dr. Morgan, the test results are ready, said her assistant, handing her another tablet. Lisa nodded, brushing a strand of graying hair from her face. 20 years she had worked on this project. 20 years since the Council had blocked Earth's attempt to establish a colony on Proxima Centauri, claiming the planet was reserved for future development. That had been the final straw. Humans had endured centuries of subtle restrictions, always couched in diplomatic language about protecting less developed species or maintaining galactic harmony. But the pattern had become clear. Humanity would never be allowed to reach its full potential under Council rule. The test results confirmed what she already knew. The full drive worked perfectly. Back in the Council chamber, the debate grew heated. "We must impose immediate sanctions," shouted the Krook's delegate, pounding his armored fist on the railing. "Military action may be necessary," added another. "The humans cannot be allowed to possess technology beyond their approved development level." Samuel Carter watched silently, making mental notes of each threat. None of them mattered now. The plan was already too far along to stop. Zix Thran called for order again. "We will send investigators to Earth immediately. The humans have signed the Technology Development Treaty. They must comply with our regulations." As the Council voted to approve the measure, Samuel's hidden earpiece vibrated. He touched it discreetly. "Phase 1 complete," whispered the voice of President Wright. "The first ships are ready." Samuel allowed himself a small smile. By the time the Council figured out what was happening, it would be too late to fix it. Humanity wasn't asking for permission this time. They were leaving. Admiral John Wallace stood at the viewport of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship. The stars looked peaceful from up here, but he knew better. Somewhere out there, Council ships were already moving toward Earth. "Status report," he said, turning to his crew. "All ships in defensive formation, sir," replied Lieutenant Susan Miller. "Civilian evacuation proceeding on schedule." Wallace nodded. His job wasn't to win a war. It was to buy time for the civilian ships to finish preparations. He looked at the holographic display showing Earth's orbital space. Thousands of small dots represented Council spy drones that constantly watched humanity's homeworld. In the Council archives, Junior archivist Niall Vaz scrolled through historical records. As an LRA, he was naturally curious, a trait that had led him to this isolated section of the massive library. The records of human-alien relations fascinated him. The first contact had happened over 500 years ago. The initial reports showed promise. Humans were adaptable, creative, and eager to join galactic society. But then the tone of the documents changed. Reports from the Council's Science Directorate warned of humanity's dangerous potential for rapid development. Niall Vaz found the classified directive from 300 years ago, Species 7293, humans, to be contained on their homeworld and immediate solar system until further notice. Technology development to be monitored and limited according to Schedule E. The truth was there in black and white. The Council had deliberately held humanity back. On Earth, Dr. Olivia Hayes walked through the underground lab beneath Chicago. Her team had spent years gathering evidence of Council interference. Screens around her displayed thousands of incidents, sabotaged colony ships, accidents that killed key scientists, trade deals that always seemed to disadvantage Earth. The data compilation is complete, her colleague said. 300 years of systematic oppression, all documented. Olivia nodded grimly. Send it to President Wright. The people deserve to know why we're leaving. The red soil of Mars crunched under Governor Patricia Nelson's boots as she supervised the evacuation. The domed city had been home to 3 million people just a week ago. Now only essential personnel remained. The last transport leaves in 6 hours, her assistant reported. Everyone else is already on the generation ships. Patricia looked up at the artificial sky of the dome. Soon, Mars colony would be abandoned. The thought brought a lump to her throat, but she swallowed it down. This wasn't an end. It was a beginning. Make sure everyone knows to take only what the guidelines allow, she said. There won't be room for extras on the ships. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Greel of the militant Crooks faction pounded his fist on the podium. The humans have violated the Technology Development Treaty. They must be punished immediately. High Counselor Zix Thran raised his hands for calm. We have sent an official ultimatum to Earth. They must cease all advanced propulsion research or face containment measures. Samuel Carter sat silently, knowing the ultimatum would change nothing. The fold drive wasn't just research anymore. It was reality. In the Grand Hall of the United Nations on Earth, President Alexander Wright stood before representatives from every nation. His speech was being broadcast to every corner of the planet. For centuries, we have tried to be good citizens of the galactic community, he said, his voice steady. We followed their rules. We accepted their restrictions. We believed their promises of eventual equality. He paused, looking at the faces before him. Today, we formally withdraw from the Galactic Council and announce our departure from known space. Humanity will seek its future elsewhere, free from those who fear our potential. The hall erupted in cheers and applause. On the council station, Samuel Carter stood up and walked toward the exit. The aliens stared in shock as Earth's representative left the chamber without permission. Where are you going? Demanded Zix Thran. This session is not concluded. Samuel turned back with a small smile. Neither are we. Chaos erupted in the Galactic Council chamber. Representatives shouted over each other, some demanding immediate military action, others calling for diplomacy. Silence, roared Zix Thran, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. This is unprecedented. No species has ever withdrawn from the Council. The Crooks faction, led by General Draz, pushed forward their aggressive agenda. We must send our entire fleet now. Crush this rebellion before others get similar ideas. Across the chamber, Elder Mila of the LRA stood with quiet dignity. Before we rush to violence, perhaps we should ask why the humans wish to leave. What have we done to make them so desperate to escape our community? General Draz sneered. Typical LRA weakness. While you talk, the humans prepare. In a secure monitoring room adjacent to the council chamber, Intelligence Officer Vex studied the incoming data from Earth with growing alarm. The spy drones had captured images that defied belief. High Counselor, Vex called urgently. You need to see this. The holographic display activated, showing the asteroid belt of Earth's solar system. Hidden among the rocks were ships. Not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands of ships of various sizes, from small transports to massive vessels that could carry millions. Our latest count shows over 10,000 ships, Vex reported. Based on their size and design, they appear capable of carrying Earth's entire population. The council members stared in shock. Captain Kate Miller stood on the bridge of the Vanguard ship Horizon. At 45, she had spent most of her adult life in space, commanding various vessels for Earth's limited space fleet. But the Horizon was unlike anything she'd ever piloted before. Engine status, she asked her first officer. Full drive at 100% capacity, Captain. We're ready for the first jump whenever Earth gives the order. Kate nodded, looking at the view screen showing the vast emptiness ahead. Their mission was critical. They would go first, ensuring the path was clear for the civilian vessels that would follow. All hands to ready positions, she ordered. We make history today. In the Science Directorate of the Galactic Council, alien scientists studied the limited data they had on humanity's new propulsion system with growing alarm. This shouldn't be possible, muttered Chief Scientist Lore, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly. The principles they're using, we overlooked them completely. His assistant, a young Zenthi, looked up from her calculations. If these readings are correct, they've discovered a way to fold space-time that's different from our approach, more efficient, potentially unlimited in range. Lore's skin paled. They could go anywhere, even beyond our galaxy. On Earth, as night fell across each time zone, a strange and beautiful sight appeared. Families gathered outside their homes, children holding small, glowing objects in their hands. At a signal, they released them into the air. Millions of biodegradable lanterns rose into the night sky, creating rivers of light that could be seen from space. The aliens watching through their surveillance systems were confused by this behavior. What are they doing? Asked Zix Thran, watching the feeds. Samuel Carter, who had been brought back to explain the situation, smiled sadly. They're saying goodbye to their home. In the Council's military command center, the fleet deployment orders were given. All available ships to Sol system. Establish blockade formation around Earth. No vessels are to leave the system without inspection. Commander Drax of the Krooks flexed his armored claws in anticipation. The humans think they can defy the Council. Their technology may have advanced, but our numbers will overwhelm them. They'll submit, as all species eventually do. As the Council fleet prepared to move, the first wave of human ships activated their full drives. One by one, they disappeared from Council tracking systems, leaving only ripples in spacetime where they had been. On Earth, President Wright received the news with quiet satisfaction. Phase 2 complete. Begin final evacuations. The Council had voted to blockade Earth, still not understanding that humans weren't planning to fight. They were already leaving. A sleek diplomatic shuttle broke away from the Council fleet, its engines glowing softly against the backdrop of stars. Unlike the heavily armed warships gathering at the edge of the Sol system, this vessel carried no weapons. Inside, Ambassador Nilvas of the Elorai prepared for what might be the most important mission of his career. As the youngest ambassador ever appointed, he had fought hard to be sent instead of a military force. We are approaching Earth's defense perimeter, Ambassador, the pilot announced. Nilvas nodded, his long fingers adjusting the ceremonial robes that symbolized peaceful intentions. His species had always valued understanding over conflict. He genuinely wanted to know why humans were leaving rather than negotiating. Open a communication channel, he instructed. On Earth, in the nearly empty United Nations building, Ambassador Eric Summers received the alien transmission. Most government officials had already departed on the executive ships, but Summers had volunteered to stay behind as part of the diplomatic rearguard. A single Elore shuttle is requesting permission to land, his aide reported. Interesting, Summers said. The Elore were always the most reasonable of the Council races. Grant them landing clearance at the Washington facility. Meanwhile, deep in space, Commander Drax of the Krooks prepared his battle fleet. The reptilian alien stood on the command deck of his dreadnought, surrounded by officers awaiting his orders. The Council has authorized us to prevent any further human ships from leaving, he announced, his scaled lips pulling back to reveal sharp teeth. Once the main fleet arrives, we will surround their planet and force their surrender. His second-in-command looked troubled. Sir, several Council races have expressed concern about military action. The LRA have sent a diplomatic mission. Drax made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. Diplomacy is for the weak. The humans have defied Council authority. They must be taught their place. Back on Earth, the final evacuations accelerated. In orbit, the first civilian transport ships began activating their full drives, disappearing from conventional sensors. Council tracking systems registered the energy signatures, but could not determine their destination. Lisa Morgan stood in her laboratory beneath the ocean, watching the data stream in from the departing ships. All full drives functioning within parameters, her assistant reported. The first wave has successfully cleared the solar system. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. And their trajectories? Just as planned. They'll be beyond the reach of Council technology within hours. At the Washington facility, Ambassador Nelvas stepped from his shuttle onto Earth soil for the first time. The gravity felt slightly stronger than he was used to, but the air was surprisingly pleasant. Eric Summers greeted him with a formal bow, a gesture the alien returned. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. Though I must say, your timing is unfortunate. There won't be much of a human presence here soon. Nilvas's large eyes blinked slowly. That is precisely why I've come. The Council does not understand your decision. Neither do I. Summers led the alien into a simple meeting room. Allow me to explain. He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room with images, documents, and data. This is our history with the Galactic Council, not the official version, but the reality. The display showed hundreds of incidents, sabotaged colonies, mysterious accidents that killed innovative scientists, trade agreements that systematically disadvantaged Earth, technology transfers that were promised but never delivered. For 3 centuries, your Council has been containing us, Ambassador, limiting our growth, restricting our potential. Nilvas watched in growing horror. This cannot be true. The Council exists to help developing species. That's what we thought too, Summers replied sadly. Until we gathered enough evidence to see the pattern. The hologram shifted to show the massive fleet of human Exodus ships. But that's not even the real reason we're leaving. Then what is? Asked the ambassador. We've discovered something, Summers said. Something that changes everything. The universe is far larger and more diverse than the Council has ever told anyone. At that moment, in the Council's high chamber, Zix Thran received an urgent message from Ambassador Nilvas. But before he could process it, an alarm sounded. The first Krooks warships have entered the Sol system, an aide reported. Zix Thran felt a sense of dread. It was too late to call them back. Admiral John Wallace watched the approaching Krooks warships on his tactical display. His fleet was outnumbered 5-1, but they had planned for this. All ships, execute defense pattern Omega, he ordered calmly. The Earth defense vessels moved in perfect coordination, forming what appeared to be a standard defensive sphere around the planet. But there was nothing standard about what came next. The lead Krooks warship fired the first shot, a warning blast that exploded harmlessly in space. Commander Drax's voice boomed across all communication channels. Attention, human vessels. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any ship attempting to leave Earth orbit will be destroyed. Admiral Wallace allowed himself a small smile before responding. We understand. However, We have a response from Earth. At that moment, Dr. Lisa Morgan pressed her palm against a scanner in her underwater facility. A sequence of commands activated, and around the planet, hidden installations hummed to life. A shimmering blue field expanded from Earth's surface, growing until it enveloped the entire planet. The Krook sensors registered an energy signature unlike anything they had seen before. "What is this?" demanded Drax, watching as his weapons officers reported they could no longer get a targeting lock on Earth's surface. "A planetary shield," Admiral Wallace replied. "Another technology your council didn't know we possessed." On the Galactic Council station, a group of younger counselors gathered in a private chamber. Led by Trilven of the Myriad Worlds, they represented species that had joined the Council more recently. "The evidence from Ambassador Nelvas is disturbing," said Trilven, her crystalline form reflecting the light. "If true, the elder races have been systematically oppressing developing species for thousands of years." A Zenthi representative nodded. "The humans aren't the first to leave. They're just the first with the technology to go beyond the Council's reach. We must propose an unprecedented action," Trilven said firmly. "A formal apology to humanity and an offer of full membership with all restrictions removed." Back in Earth orbit, the battle had begun. The Krook ships fired on the human defense fleet, expecting quick victory. Instead, they found themselves confused by unfamiliar tactics. The human ships moved in patterns that made no sense according to standard military doctrine. They seemed to be deliberately drawing fire away from certain areas of space where nothing appeared to be. In the Council's historical archives, a team of scholars frantically searched through ancient records. "There must be some precedent," muttered the head archivist. "Some previous instance of a species choosing to leave known space rather than submit to Council authority." His assistant looked up from a dusty data crystal. "Sir, I believe I found something. 5 million years ago, the predecessors." Before he could finish, the crystal cracked in his hands, its data lost forever. "How unfortunate," said a Krook's guard standing nearby. "Those old crystals are so fragile." In space, Commander Drax grew frustrated with the lack of progress. The human ships were taking damage, but had not lost a single vessel. Meanwhile, more civilian ships continued to disappear, activating their full drives beyond his reach. "Enough games," he snarled. "Prepare the planet killers." His weapons officer looked shocked. "Sir, those weapons are forbidden by Council law except in the most extreme circumstances." "These are extreme circumstances," Drax replied. "The humans must not be allowed to spread their defiance to other worlds." The massive weapons, capable of cracking a planet's crust, were loaded onto his flagship's main cannons. With grim satisfaction, Drax gave the order to fire. The destructive beams shot toward Earth, their power enough to end all life on the surface. But as they hit the planetary shield, something unexpected happened. Instead of exploding against the barrier, the energy beams simply dissolved, absorbed completely by the shield. In his command ship above Earth, President Wright watched the failed attack with quiet satisfaction. He turned to his communications officer. "It's time. Authorize Operation Farewell." Across the solar system, hidden transmitters activated simultaneously, sending a massive data package to every Council world. Not a weapon, but something perhaps more powerful, the complete record of human knowledge, art, and culture, freely given to all sentient beings. The Council chambers erupted in chaos as the human data package spread throughout their network. On massive screens around the circular hall, images and information from Earth appeared faster than anyone could process them. Art, music, literature, scientific discoveries, philosophical debates, the entire cultural and intellectual heritage of humanity was being freely shared with the very beings who had sought to contain them. "What is the meaning of this?" Zix Thran demanded, his skin cycling through colors of confusion and alarm. But the data kept flowing, and with it came the evidence, carefully documented records of Council interference in human affairs. The manipulation was laid bare for all to see, too thorough and consistent to be denied. "This cannot be true," whispered a Zenthi representative, but her voice lacked conviction. Among the newer council races, shock quickly turned to outrage. The representative from Droll, a recently admitted species, stood tall on his forelegs. "If this evidence is accurate, then the council has betrayed its founding principles," he announced. "The Droll Confederation stands in solidarity with humans and condemns these actions." One by one, other representatives, particularly from races that had joined in the last few centuries, made similar declarations. The council, which had stood united for millennia, was fracturing before Zixtbrand's eyes. On Earth, evacuations continued at a rapid pace. Half of the planet's population had now departed, the massive ships vanishing beyond the heliopause. Admiral Wallace's defense fleet continued its holding action, buying time for more civilian vessels to activate their full drives. In the Washington facility, Ambassador Nilvaz sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Summers had shared with him the final piece of information, the true reason for humanity's departure. "The universe is not what the Council has taught," Summers explained gently. "Your scientists have known for millennia that there are places beyond the reach of your sensors, realities that follow different physical laws." He activated a holographic display showing complex mathematical equations and strange energy readings. "We stumbled upon this by accident. When developing our full drive, we detected echoes from elsewhere. Not just distant galaxies, but entirely different planes of existence." Nilvas's large eyes widened. "The prohibited knowledge," he whispered. "The ancient texts mention this, but access is restricted to the highest levels of the Council." Summers nodded. "Your leaders have known all along. They've kept this knowledge from your people, just as they've held back countless species from reaching their potential." On his return shuttle, Nilvaz composed a message for a small group of sympathetic counselors. He knew sharing this information was dangerous, but the truth had to be known. "The humans haven't just developed faster than light travel," he wrote. "They've discovered the crossroads, the nexus points between realities that the ancient texts describe. They're not just leaving our galaxy. They're leaving our universe entirely." Back in the battle above Earth, Commander Drax received orders from his superiors on the Council. "Deploy all available forces against Earth immediately." The message read, "The humans possess prohibited knowledge. Containment is now the highest priority." Drax smiled grimly. Finally, authorization for what he had wanted to do all along. He signaled to his fleet, ordering all ships to attack. But across the Council space, dissent was growing. Several member races had withdrawn their ships from the assault force in protest. Scientists who had received the human data package were independently verifying the research, with many coming to a terrible realization. "The Council has been lying to all of us," said Dr. Klenn, a respected physicist on the Zenthi homeworld. "Our scientific orthodoxy has been deliberately engineered to limit progress. The humans found the path we should have discovered millennia ago." As news spread across countless worlds, the carefully maintained control of the elder Council races began to crumble. Questions that had never been asked were now being spoken aloud. Technologies that had been declared theoretical or impossible were suddenly being developed in labs across the galaxy. The truth, once released, could not be contained, just like the humans who had set it free. Earth was nearly empty now. The once bustling cities stood silent, with only volunteer defense forces and government leadership remaining. Parks and nature reserves had been left untouched, and automated systems would maintain key infrastructure for centuries to come. Humanity had not destroyed their cradle, they had simply outgrown it. President Wright stood at the window of his office in what had once been the White House. Soon, this building would stand as another museum piece on an abandoned world. He felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. "Sir, it's time," said his aide. "The new dawn is ready." Wright nodded, taking one last look at the empty streets before turning away. He had a ship to board, the last ship, the largest vessel humanity had ever built. In orbit, the Council fleet surrounded Earth, but hesitated to attack. Several member races had withdrawn their ships in protest after learning the truth about the Council's history. Commander Drax found his once overwhelming force reduced by nearly half. "Cowards," he snarled, watching another cruiser break formation and leave. "The Crooks will maintain order even if we must do it alone." His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Sir, we're detecting movement from the surface. A new ship is launching. It's enormous." The tactical display showed a vessel unlike any they had seen before. The New Dawn rose majestically from Earth's North Pole, its massive form easily 10 times larger than the biggest Council dreadnought. On the Council station, a formal vote was taking place. For the first time in 15,000 years, a motion of no confidence had been brought against the High Counselor position. As the truth about their history of manipulation spread, the ancient power structure was crumbling. "The position of High Counselor is hereby dissolved," announced Trilven as the final votes were tallied. "A new council will form with equal representation for all member species." Zixthran, stripped of his authority, could only watch as millennia of careful control fell apart in days. Admiral Wallace's defense fleet executed its final maneuver. Instead of attacking the remaining Council ships, they formed a precise geometric pattern around Earth. "All ships in position," reported his tactical officer. "Gravitational lens formation is active." Wallace nodded. "Begin the sequence." The defense ships activated special devices that bent space-time in a carefully calculated pattern. They weren't surrendering. They were creating a gravitational lens that would accelerate the New Dawn's departure, catapulting it beyond the Council's reach faster than even they had anticipated. On the New Dawn, President Wright joined the command crew on the bridge. Through the massive view screen, he could see Earth growing smaller. "Status of the fold drive?" he asked. "Charged and ready, Mr. President," replied the captain. "All systems green." Wright looked at the faces around him, the last humans in the solar system. "Then let's not keep our people waiting. Activate the drive." Ambassador Nilvas had returned to the Council station just in time to witness the transformation of the governing body he had served. Many of the elder races were facing inquiries and investigations. Some representatives had already been removed by their homeworlds. "The humans," he asked a colleague, "have they all gone?" "Almost," came the reply. "Their final ship is preparing to depart." In the space around Earth, the defense fleet completed its work. The gravitational lens focused its energy on the New Dawn, giving it an extra boost as its fold drive activated. As the last human ship prepared to leave known space forever, they transmitted a single message across all frequencies, in all languages of the galaxy. "We forgive you. Perhaps we'll meet again when you're ready." Commander Drax watched helplessly as the massive human vessel disappeared from his sensors. His orders had been clear: prevent the humans from leaving at all costs. He had failed. In the empty council chamber, the message echoed from speakers, heard by representatives of 1,000 worlds. Some wept. Others stood in solemn silence. The youngest members looked to the stars with new determination. The humans were gone. But what they had left behind would change the galaxy forever. On the New Dawn, as Earth vanished from view and the fold drive engaged, President Wright felt the ship shudder slightly before smoothing out into perfect flight. Ahead lay the unknown, new galaxies, perhaps new universes. Humanity had left its cradle behind. It was time to explore. 100 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways no one could have predicted when humanity departed. The reformed Galactic Council met in a new chamber, built to replace the old hierarchical design. Instead of rising tiers that placed elder races above newer members, all representatives sat in a perfect circle. No position was higher than another. Councillor Loren, a young Elore, stood to address the gathering. Like all members of the current council, he had been born after humanity's exodus. "Today marks the centennial of what we now call the Awakening," he said, "when humans shared their knowledge and left our realm." On the main display, images of Earth appeared. The planet had been designated a memorial world, protected by interstellar law. No one lived there, but scientists and historians from across the galaxy visited regularly to study humanity's abandoned homeworld. Our deep space probes have detected signals that might originate from human colonies in distant galaxies, Loren continued, though no direct contact has been reestablished. In universities across Council space, students of various species studied human history as a pivotal moment in galactic civilization. The revelation of the Council's past manipulations had led to a complete reformation of galactic governance. The Legacy Project has successfully implemented the last of the human scientific theories from their data package, said a Zenthi representative. Our understanding of reality has expanded beyond what we thought possible a century ago. Young species now entered the galactic community with full rights and without restrictions on their development. The ideas of technological readiness and developmental containment had been abandoned as remnants of a flawed past. Perhaps most surprising was the transformation of the Crooks. Once the militant enforcers of Council will, they had undergone their own revolution after humanity's departure. The Crooks Cooperative wishes to announce the opening of our 15th Center for Interspecies Cultural Exchange, said their representative, no longer armored for war, but dressed in simple robes. We continue our commitment to atone for our ancestors' actions. Commander Drax had become a cautionary tale in Crooks' history, an example of blind obedience and aggressive enforcement without understanding. As the council session continued, an urgent message interrupted the proceedings. A long-range exploration vessel at the edge of known space had picked up something unusual. "Counselors," said the ship's captain, her image appearing on the main display, "we've detected an anomaly at the boundary of our scanning range." The council chamber grew quiet as data streamed in. Energy readings unlike anything seen in a century appeared on their screens. "It matches the signature recorded during humanity's departure," the science officer reported. A fold drive activation. Excitement spread through the chamber. Was this a human ship? Had they returned after all this time? The exploration vessel's sensors locked onto a small craft emerging from what appeared to be a fold in spacetime itself. It was clearly of human design, though unlike the Exodus fleet vessels from the historical records. A transmission came through, broadcasting on an old frequency that hadn't been used in a century. "Greetings, Galactic Council," said a woman's voice. "This is Captain Meyerwright of the Earth Reconnaissance Vessel Emissary." The council members looked at each other in amazement as the message continued. "We have been tasked with re-establishing contact and determining if the galactic civilization is ready for what we have discovered beyond the veil. We come not to rejoin you, but to see if you've learned the lessons we hoped you would." The exploration vessel's captain responded with trembling voice. "We welcome you, Captain Wright. The galaxy has changed much since your people left." As the human ship approached, representatives from 1,000 worlds held their breath. The species that had once been contained and dismissed had transformed their civilization and then departed to explore realities beyond imagination. Now they had returned, not as supplicants seeking admission, but as travelers from beyond, checking if their former jailers had grown enough to be worthy of what lay beyond the boundaries of known space. It had taken a century, but perhaps now, it wasn't too late after all.